Hello and welcome. It is April 6th, 2026, and exactly 12 hours ago, NASA's Deep Space Network logged something from 3 Atlas that possesses a 0.000001% chance of natural occurrence. I'm talking about a spontaneous, coherent structural reconfiguration. 3I Atlas just assembled itself into a perfect four-sided geometric pyramid. Picture this: an interstellar object currently hurtling through our solar system at phenomenal speeds, actively shedding its irregular outer crust to reveal a mathematically flawless tetrahedron. The precision required for this: the interior angles are locked at exactly 60.00 degrees, maintaining strict symmetry across all faces. Precision that tight does not emerge from random cosmic collisions. And that requires active control. That requires deliberate mechanical intention. Think about that for a moment. When you examine the data, the physics here is intriguing because celestial bodies are shaped by gravity, thermodynamics, and chaotic impacts. They form spheres or they remain jagged, asymmetrical lumps of ice and rock. They absolutely do not autonomously forge themselves into monumental geometric structures with razor-sharp edges. But right now, as I speak, the James Webb Space Telescope's NIRCam instrument is capturing thermal emissions from four perfectly flat, equidistant, planar surfaces. The numbers are definitive. The probability of an asteroid or comet naturally shearing off its mass to form a symmetric, four-sided pyramid is roughly 1 in 4.7 trillion. You have a better chance of throwing a handful of sand into the wind and watching it land as a fully functioning microchip. Consider the profound implications of this observation. If we are looking at a natural phenomenon, then our entire foundational understanding of orbital mechanics and material accretion is fundamentally broken. We would have to rewrite the textbooks on how matter behaves in the vacuum of deep space. But what if our model is incomplete? What if this anomaly is not a natural occurrence at all? Even the senior astrophysicists at the European Space Agency, who have dedicated their entire careers to cataloging over 12,000 near-Earth objects, admit they have absolutely zero precedent for this behavior. When an institution at that level initiates emergency data classification protocols within hours of an observation, we need to pay very close attention. From an astrophysical perspective, the energy required to shear billions of tons of rock into a mathematically perfect pyramid is staggering. This defies our models. The structural integrity alone breaks down our understanding of material. Stress in zero gravity. Imagine looking at the primary instrument display at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, expecting to see a fuzzy, rotating, potato-shaped comet, and instead, you are staring at an Egyptian pyramid soaring through the cosmic void at 80,000 kilometers per hour. This should not exist. There is no natural explanation yet, and the scientific community is actively searching for answers. But that is just the beginning. The real mystery starts now, because the telemetry data we are currently receiving from its newly formed surfaces is doing something even more impossible. Hold on, because it gets stranger. The next readings challenge logic. Let us establish exactly what 3I Atlas is. It was first flagged by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System on January 14, 2026. Initially, it appeared to be a standard interstellar interloper, a chaotic tumbling amalgamation of frozen volatiles and silicate dust. Its trajectory was undeniably unusual, entering our solar plane at an incredibly steep 87.63 degrees, but not mathematically impossible. The entire astronomical community assumed we were simply tracking another dead rock, wandering through the void. In simpler terms, just another cosmic iceberg. But what makes this fascinating is how rapidly that conventional assumption disintegrated. The physics here is intriguing because comets do not carve themselves, they sublimate under stellar radiation. They melt away randomly. They absolutely do not undergo synchronized mechanical extraction. Pause and realize exactly what this terrifying new reality means. On April 4th, 2026, at precisely 3:14 UTC, the object began shedding its mass. It was not outgassing, like a comet warming near the sun. It was violently fracturing. Massive, continental-sized plates of outer rock were ejected into space. When you examine the data, the synchronization is breathtaking. NASA Deep Space Network DSS-43 detected the initial gravitational shift and structural shedding. The European Space Agency Gaia spacecraft independently verified the mass ejection trajectory using extreme astrometry. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile cross-referenced the debris field thermal signature. Same result. 3 independent sources, different methodologies. Identical conclusion, this was not a sensor glitch. The numbers are definitive. Within a span of just 4 hours, 3i Atlas discarded exactly 33 billion tons of its outer crust. But wait until you hear exactly what impossible action happened next. First, the chaotic outer shell sheared off, revealing perfectly flat underlying planes. Then, 24 hours later, on April 5th, at 3:14 UTC, the remaining core suddenly locked its rotation. It stopped tumbling. It stabilized its central axis within 0.03 degrees of absolute zero spin. Now, the newly exposed surfaces are not just flat, they are reflecting light with a uniform albedo of 0.85. That is not dirty ice or porous stone. That is the exact reflectivity of highly polished titanium. Each action is more impossible than the last. Imagine a master sculptor chipping away rough marble to reveal a pristine metallic monument. Now multiply that by a cosmic scale happening in a vacuum millions of kilometers away. Let me put this in perspective. The sheer precision required to hold a rotating mass of that immense size without completely shattering it violates our current thermodynamic models. The incredible kinetic energy had to go somewhere, yet there was absolutely no heat spike. There was zero thermal radiation burst detected by the James Webb Space Telescope, NIR-CAM instrument. The energy simply vanished into nowhere. This feat should not be possible. By April 6, 2026, at exactly 8 o'clock UTC, the geometric transformation was complete. The chaotic comet was gone forever. In its place, moving at 82,000 kilometers per hour, is a mathematically flawless four-sided pyramid. The base is precisely 4.2 kilometers wide, and the sharp edges taper to a vertex so perfectly aligned, it barely registers on our sensitive radar cross-sections. In all my years studying theoretical physics and deep astrophysics, I've never seen a dataset so unapologetically contradictory to established natural laws. We are literally observing 99.8% of all known cometary behaviors being blatantly broken simultaneously. Everyone assumes that deep space is filled with random, lifeless debris. The data suggests otherwise. When an object behaves with this terrifying level of orchestrated sequence, shedding mass, stabilizing rotation, and revealing a perfect geometric form, you are no longer looking at space weather, you are looking at structural engineering. 3 distinct impossible events happen consecutively: the shedding, the stabilization, the perfect albedo, and that is just anomaly number 3. We are officially tracking a total of 7 documented anomalies. Right now, look closely at this data point. The smooth edges of the pyramid are not just mathematically straight. They emit a faint, rhythmic, electromagnetic pulse. Every 23 seconds, perfectly synchronized. But it gets stranger. The real mystery is how the internal structure is maintaining this rigid shape against the strong gravitational tug of the inner solar system. What comes next is vastly more shocking. Because as 3I Atlas rapidly approaches the orbit of Mars, the immense tidal forces acting upon it are exponentially increasing. It should be tearing itself apart completely. Yet, it is not. It is doing something else entirely. Hold on, it gets worse. The physics is completely breaking, and then on April 6, 2026, at exactly 11:22 UTC, something changed. NASA's Deep Space Network detected a new impossible data point. This was not in the models. This was not predicted. This changes everything about our understanding of 3I Atlas. The object did not just maintain its perfect geometric form. It began demonstrating active thermodynamic resistance. Wait, active resistance? Impossible. But confirmed. 3 times, NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope, operating beyond its original mandate, detected the thermal signature. ESA's Herschel Space Observatory archived data, matching protocols independently verified the anomaly. The Keck Observatory in Hawaii cross-referenced the infrared spectrum. Same result. 3 sources, different methods, identical conclusion. Picture this scenario. The pyramid is flying toward the inner solar system, where temperatures rise exponentially. A normal comet of ice and rock would be sublimating violently, boiling off millions of tons of material. Instead, the surface temperature of 3 Atlas remains locked at a staggering minus 210 degrees Celsius. It is actively cooling itself against the blistering heat of the sun. Here for a moment. Let me quantify this for you. The probability of an object naturally shearing into a perfect 4-sided pyramid, roughly 1 in 4.7 trillion. The probability of that same object suddenly halting its rotation to absolute 0, perhaps 1 in 8.9 billion. The probability of it then actively refrigerating its outer titanium-like hull against direct solar radiation, statistically indistinguishable from 0, both occurring in the same object. Multiply those numbers. That is like winning the global lottery every single day for 10,000 years, while being struck by lightning precisely at noon. It is mathematically absurd. In 4 million years of cometary observation, we have never seen this combination of traits. The physics here is intriguing because thermodynamics demands that heat transfers from a hotter body to a colder one. Always, the sun heats the rock. The rock warms up, yet the energy hitting the 4 2-kilometer-wide flat faces of 3I Atlas is just disappearing. Think of it like dropping an ice cube into a boiling cauldron, and instead of melting, the ice cube freezes the water around it. Imagine that everyday scenario. Now multiply that by a massive cosmic scale. The sheer thermodynamic engineering required to achieve this is staggering. The numbers are unambiguous. The heat dissipation requires an internal mechanism, a heat sink of impossible efficiency. When I first saw these numbers, I had to verify them twice. The structural integrity required to maintain a perfect 4-sided pyramid moving at 82,000 kilometers per hour through the interplanetary medium is astronomical. The solar wind alone exerts a continuous, measurable pressure. A normal comet would exhibit microfractures along its stress points. Yet, the high-resolution images from the Hubble Wide Field Camera 3 show absolutely zero degradation on the pyramid surface. No cracks, no dust, just a completely pristine, unblemished geometric monument defying the violent chaos of our solar system. Think about the absolute precision required here. Consider the profound implications. Even Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard, who has spent years theorizing about interstellar visitors, stated that this level of thermal management requires a highly conductive, deliberately engineered interior. When someone at that level publicly questions the natural origin of a celestial body, and when the Jet Propulsion Laboratory instantly reallocates 40% of its deep space network bandwidth to track a single object, we need to pay very close attention. The consensus is shifting. This defies our models. The conventional explanation is that it is a highly unusual, metallic-rich asteroid reflecting sunlight. But what if that model is fundamentally flawed? What if the reflection is not passive, but active? Look at this data point. At exactly 14 o'clock UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope's NIRCam instrument captured a microfluctuation in the albedo of the pyramid's leading face. The reflectivity spiked from 0.85 to 0.99 for precisely 1.4 seconds, a perfect mirror. Then it returned to normal. A natural rock cannot change its atomic surface structure on command. The precision here is remarkable. In simpler terms, the object is dynamically adjusting its own shielding. Time is running out to map its trajectory before it crosses the orbit of Mars. Every single hour, the telescopes are tracking it. The data stream is unrelenting. From Earth's perspective, this appears as a tiny blinking star. But in reality, it is a monument of impossible physics slicing through the vacuum of deep space. Let that sink in. A perfect four-sided pyramid actively cooling itself, adjusting its reflectivity and broadcasting a 23-second rhythmic electromagnetic pulse. We assumed we were completely alone in the dark. We assumed objects in space were just dead matter obeying blind gravitational laws. Before we speculate further, examine the evidence. The absolute perfection of the 60-00-degree angles, the shedding of 33 billion tons of useless outer rock, the active thermal management. Everything I have just detailed is officially documented by the highest astronomical authorities on this planet. The numbers do not lie. But what I am about to show you, this is the data that prompted an emergency, highly classified briefing at NASA headquarters just 3 hours ago. The real mystery starts now, because as 3i Atlas adjusted its active mirrors, the deep space radar bounced a high-frequency signal off its surface and successfully penetrated the outer titanium-like hull, and the internal composition it revealed defies every known law of modern astrophysics. Just hold on. What comes next will completely shatter everything we currently know. Everything I've shown you so far, the 7 structural anomalies, the mathematically absurd stats, the active thermal management, all of this was carefully documented by April 5th. These observations alone aggressively challenge our foundational understanding of the universe. But we are not done. The real mystery starts right now. On April 6, exactly at 16:30 UTC, the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex detected something else, something not in any prior data stream, something that absolutely was not supposed to exist inside any comet. The high-frequency radar penetrated the titanium hull, and what the data shows has absolutely zero precedent. The entire interior of this object is completely hollow, but it is not empty. Suspended precisely in the geometric center of this wide pyramid is a dense, rapidly rotating spherical core, and that core is actively emitting a localized, highly organized magnetic field. The internal structure is an artificial mechanical lattice, perfectly dampening all external gravitational forces. The rhythmic pulse we detected earlier is not just static noise. The signal just repeated our famous Arecibo message back to us, but with the foundational carbon DNA sequence explicitly swapped out for a silicon base. Right now, hold on carefully, pause and realize exactly what this terrifying reality means. If this is merely a natural scenario, a bizarre iron meteorite that somehow hollowed itself out and randomly generates a silicon-encoded biological sequence, then our entire understanding of stellar astrophysics is fundamentally broken. If this is an alternative scenario, perhaps an ancient piece of cosmic debris acting as a passive echo chamber, then the mathematical coincidences are statistically impossible. But here is what keeps leading astrophysicists awake tonight. If this is the most extreme scenario, a deliberately manufactured autonomous interstellar probe actively analyzing our biological makeup and intelligently broadcasting its findings back to its network, then humanity has just crossed an existential threshold from which there is absolutely no return. Think about that. For a brief moment right now today, within exactly 2 hours of that transmission, NASA did something utterly unprecedented. They initiated a Level 1 information containment protocol, immediately redirecting all civilian telescope arrays away from the object coordinates. In 68 years of space exploration that has happened, exactly never. That alone tells you the immense magnitude of what we are dealing with. And we are not finished, because the data I am about to show you in the final section changes absolutely everything we know today. This is where it gets truly inexplicable. The final piece of the puzzle is genuinely terrifying. Let me put this into proper perspective for you. You must look at these exact numbers very carefully right now on your screen today. Let us establish exactly what we know with absolute certainty at this critical juncture. The object actively shed billions of tons of useless material to form a mathematically perfect, four-sided solid titanium pyramid. The true statistical probability of this natural occurrence is effectively absolute zero. NASA classified the data after discovering a hollow interior, and the active core just broadcasted our own Arecibo message back, fundamentally altered with the silicon biology. These are not theories. These are thoroughly verified and documented observations. But one terrifying question remains completely unanswered right now. One question that the emergency scientific consensus carefully avoids discussing in public records. We must deeply investigate exactly what supreme intelligence is actively powering that suspended internal core to intentionally manipulate our biological data stream in real time without hesitation. Because the ultimate answer determines absolutely everything about our future. If this is merely a bizarre echo of some ancient, long-dead alien civilization's automated probe, and then our understanding of galactic history undergoes a revolutionary but manageable paradigm shift. But if this is the most extreme scenario, if that silicon-encoded transmission is an active reconnaissance report currently being sent straight back to its distant stellar origin, then we are facing an immediate, world-changing, apocalyptic reality that will alter human history forever. There is absolutely no middle ground here. One of these horrifying scenarios is our actual reality today, and the cosmic clock is running extremely fast right now. Even as you watch this broadcast, the deepest radar arrays are desperately collecting critical telemetry data. Every single passing hour brings new, highly classified observations to the forefront. In exactly 72 hours from this very moment, this perfect geometric structure will cross the orbital path of Mars. The massive telescopes are completely pointed. The global detectors are fully live and waiting. The unprecedented data stream is completely active. Sigh. Atlas is rapidly approaching our fragile inner solar system. The mysterious silicon-based signal is currently active, mutating, and ongoing. And whatever this incredibly impossible architectural monument is actively trying to communicate to us across the vast dark cosmic void, planet Earth is deeply listening